of times transformation has to be seen from outside in, looking at what changes are in the ecosystem to help you either catch up or even leapfrog some of the efforts that others are putting in, maybe into similar transformation efforts. And I always love this analogy from Oren Harari, which is the electric bulb or light did not come from the continuous improvement of the candle. Because you could keep doing the same thing over and over, you can get more light, but I think there has to be something fundamentally different, additive, and that's where today's conversation comes in. And for that, you need certain tenets of your organization to be ready, certain understanding of your people and the folks that are in the ecosystem of your organization, including customers, including your partners, that you need to be able to identify what kinds of things can I bring to the table, what do I expect my ecosystem to bring to the table. And with that, maybe I'll get started into our discussion. And some of this is a little bit of for later read, so I'll just give a busy slide, but an important one at that about Ithena. We are a transformation platform company that's partnered with Rockwell for several years, certainly with the ES&E and our customers across North America and different parts of the world. Very focused on bringing the outcome of transformation to our customers. So there's blocks of things on the right that you see here. These are capabilities on services that we bring to table to help transform our customers and partners' ecosystem. And we've built some solutions that you see on the left here. There's one of them which we're going to talk about today on the servicing side. And certainly we focus on certain key industries that are relevant to our space. And we're trying to make anything that has a hardware engineered product, we're trying to make it smarter by having it connected and have a use case that it can be deployed for the benefit of the organization that's making it or to the organizations that using it. So incredibly important to know how do you take the product that you're building or machine that you're operating, be able to then identify the value of it for your internal consumption or for your customer. One more data point I'll tell you about Ithena, the way we think about solutions, and this might be a relevant take back for you. A lot of technologies like Rockwell's industrial suite of products or PTC, ThingWorx platform, or any of the IoT platforms you might have heard of, or augmented reality platforms, or blockchain technologies. There's new buzzwords before we get back to our offices. There'll be a couple others that we might have to dabble with. All of that only goes to say that there are things in a Lego box. There are tools available to a carpenter or to a technician, but we ought to identify what is the best use of those tools for the outcome that we're trying to achieve. And what we have done is we've identified, look, there's a fundamental layer of software tools like that, and then there's a business construct that everybody has been either fed or is reading about. And that's about the realization of artificial intelligence in this world, the importance of data, the importance of customer experience, the opportunity to be digitally present pretty much in your entire ecosystem. Now those are having a set of tools and having these goals, either internally driven or competitively driven into your lifestyle, doesn't bridge the gap. What we've done at Ithena is help not just give you a box of Legos and say, well, enjoy and we can come and help you build whatever you want to build. We have taken a myopic view in some sense to say, are you into servicing? Are you into smart factory optimization? Are you looking to do a product that you want to create as a connected and a smart product to deploy out to your customers? Are you looking to deploy government or public safety initiatives in the marketplace with connected products? So our capability that we're going to talk about today on the servicing side is that first block there. So these gray boxes that you see are the way to bridge the art of the possible with the fundamental technology that's available. If you're on two far ends of the spectrum or the slide, one is kind of wishful thinking of where the world is going, and I want to be data-driven. I want to be doing something with AI. Well, then there's a tool that you spend tons of money and time and people's energy in learning, only to find out I'm doing basic connectivity I'm just getting data out, but where's the intelligence? Where's the AI? Where's the generative next step that I need to do from this? Where's the workflow? So what if I'm able to integrate this? We help solve that problem, and iServ was that we have enabled servicing with this application that's built on the right fundamentals of technology, and it caters to the need of the markets today and tomorrow. So with that, what you should expect from here is what is the opportunity for servicing, servitization, if you're an OEM, or if you are an end user, you want to identify how do I look at performance monitoring and serviceability within my internal organization that's easy, that's predictive, that's forthcoming rather than reactive. You ought to be able to look at how other customers are deploying such technology, because in my conversation, I'm going to share that with you. And you also ought to be able to say, well, so what's in it for me? How am I going to go back and possibly look at continuing this journey? Any session we attend, I'm a big believer, you ought to be able to take something back. So to me, if we don't achieve that third, at least give you something to think about and then give you some tools or direction to understand how you can take that forward, I won't be doing justice to this talk. So I want to make sure that those are the takeaways we get back to you. Before I get right into the application, I want to share some trends, and I don't want to make it some big financial analyst Gartner type speech, because we get a lot of that. I want to make it relevant to this conversation. And there are 6 or 7 bullets that I'm going to list out, which are words and buzzwords and capabilities or readiness or strategies, technologies, whatever you want to call them, that I know you probably are talking about internally within your organization, or your C-suite, or your engineering teams, or your customers, or your ecosystem partners are talking to you about. And just having a buzzword around doesn't mean much, except that you've got to learn that, or you've heard about it. It's important to see the relevance of this in your day-to-day business, and that's what we're going to try to put together. So a lot of these, in terms of the acronyms you would have heard. For example, adoption of 5G sensors or communication that is now going to like a narrowband IoT, or ease of doing things in a very light cost as well as fitment is happening all across OEMs or manufacturers. And we feel that the advent or the ability for us to communicate easily, for 2 devices to communicate easily, is what's going to drive a lot of adoption of this stuff. Now, there's still some threats and risks and all that, but at least the ability to not just be dependent on Ethernet or RS-232 connectivity can now create more options for devices to be more nimble and be able to be adaptive to discussion of the next gen applications. Cybersecurity, I'm sure each of you, when you think of as an OEM to deploy a solution to your customer, or even if you're a plant that has multiple facilities, a company that has multiple facilities across, you always think of what data can get out. How do I make sure I protect the network, the threat to my network, with cybersecurity initiatives? So these aren't things that are directly necessarily correlated, but all of them are eventually related to making a transformation journey successful. What Ernst & Young did some time back, they interviewed about 1,100 to 1,180 or so manufacturing companies, and here's the top outcomes, priorities, or survey results that came out. And I'm throwing this out because it's relevant in today's context for the application we're going to talk about, and I want to set the ground for that. Companies, especially OEMs, are their top 3 behind I think there was geopolitical risks and climate change, and I don't know why those 2 stood out. We're the first and 2 only to be having the risk of competition beating the companies down as the 3rd. So to me, and to the relevance of this context, it's important that we see a lot of companies are believing that if they don't keep up the pace with what's going on around in the adoption of digital transformation, they're going to be either left behind or not be able to give the same value as their competitor. Number 1. Number 2, those that are thinking about these, they're almost 2.5 times more likely to prioritize investments in data and in tech, which is one of the 6 bullets I listed on the previous page. So how do I bring Industrial 4.0 to reality for my organization? Companies that are thinking about transforming themselves usually take initiatives that are related to data and digital tech in the first year of their thought process in some way, shape, or form. And then 2 out of 3 manufacturing companies say that it's not, I can do it all. I have to look at an ecosystem. You look at companies, I mean, you must have heard the construct of retail or B2C companies like Airbnb or Uber or any of these that don't own a single asset, yet make you transact through them only through the advent of mobility or web or commerce or digital tech that they're able to attach to. And then they give features that are second to none for you to now make that your lifestyle. So the ability for you to be more effective is to look at what the ecosystem is doing and maybe integrate some of that capability within your own existence. Also, one very important data point that I saw, that from top executives, the priorities of their organization internally, inside out, some of the previous slide was more of an outside-in view. This is more internally, speaking about initiatives. Technology was the number one priority from an advancement perspective. Which initiatives do you want to advance and ensure that you have on your top priority? It's the adoption of technology in the digital space, as 55% of these was the highest priority amongst others. Manufacturing is third in this list, and if you double click on that data point, it's the ability for manufacturers to move from product to service. The serviceability of a product, it's not one and done. I want to have a lifetime value with my customer. I want to be able to be relevant to my customer after I sell them the product. And I want to be able to do that in a digital way. Because today companies for several years already have been providing service, so there's nothing new. Whether it's incident-based, whether it's break-fix, whether it's urgent SLA, or your top customer has your CEO's or president's number, and then everybody follows that track. We're trying to make it so that it's not commoditized, yet it's enabled for everybody with digital capability. And the last of the surveys was that if we go back and add a model of business for service, which is possibly a recurring service model, like a managed service type scenario, like an insurance policy almost, for this is more relevant to OEMs in some sense, where you ensure that your service has your product or your equipment has a certain uptime, and you're governed by that uptime, and there's financial transaction based on that uptime commitment. So the customer pays a certain amount of money every month or every year for commitment of certain uptime. Now the OEM and the machine builder has to enable that capability some way, shape, or form, and that's what we help do. Let me dive right into some of the challenges that we find, and this you'll relate to much better. I'll build this slide already. This is challenges typically on the shop floor when you are an end user of an OEM's equipment. First of all, there's multiple OEMs that are deployed at your facility in a single line or in the factory, what have you. More often than not, there are varied and different types of systems and actions that you have to learn to manage equipment, control settings. Now, equipment specificity aside, just to be able to raise a ticket against an equipment or an entire line or against your operations is usually different, or it's disparate. You have to do it in different systems across. And the resolution that you get at that is different methods of getting the input for the resolution. Sometimes it's a call, sometimes it's somebody shows up, sometimes it's maybe an email that comes in. So the non-uniformity, now we've all gotten used to it, so hey, what's the big deal? We've been doing it for donkey years, why does it matter? The challenge comes in is when you want to look at growth initiatives, when you want to do more with less or do a lot more with the same at the least. And the idea that you can digitize the experience for these challenges is what we're going to showcase in what iServ, our service tool, enables you to do. From an OEM standpoint, there are obviously also expectations on, and this is very relevant for machine builders that are looking to do additive revenue opportunity with digital technology. If you buy something, you're going to have to give a justification of, am I looking at revenue growth through this channel that otherwise wasn't possible for me? You certainly want to get closer and more intimate with resolving your customer's problem in much sooner at that. And of course, you want to be able to do that hopefully with not just linearly growing the number of people that you deploy, but do that with technology that can scale beyond people. So things like improving service times for delivery, opportunity to look at creating differentiation in the market space. looking at providing service that the customer wasn't expecting maybe, or you're doing so exceptionally well that you are known by your service. A lot of OEMs take pride in that, and they've continued to do that over time, but it's more important that now in the growth years, you have means that are just beyond people. Ability to give proactive or predictive intelligence to your customer. I don't know how many folks might have thought of that, but organizations in my previous survey, when I talked about technology and finance and manufacturing was one of the other priority. In that manufacturing space, one of the key things was, can I be proactively providing insight to my customer? Is there a way for technology to be available for me to provide intelligence back to my customer? And certainly to do all of that, the challenges the OEMs face as well, you've got a lot of intelligence in the minds of people that have been tied to you for years, whether it's service tech or engineers in quality or in production or new product innovation, whatever the groups might be. And you're not able to bring that all into a scalable platform of technology, or scale that even by just adding more people, because the next person that joins is not as skilled, as experienced, doesn't have that many years, feet on the ground for you to be able to give the same type of quality. But if you were to digitize certain things that are in the minds of experienced folks, there's a lot of opportunity. That's where IoT, augmented reality, data analytics and visualization capability for a fraction of the cost can enable that. So let me talk really quick, and I'll leave this for later reading. I've said a lot of these things already. A lot of these challenges that OEMs have for finding the right people, figuring out models of service to better service your end customers, the downtime that the customer feels, you're leaving a lot of challenges or they impact both financially and then qualitatively the ability for you to be relevant in that industry or in that space. And what I mean by that is when you solve a ticket today with the manual methods, which is somebody calls in and a dispatch or maybe a team of folks or an operator is figuring out, hey, where are you calling from, sir? What's your serial number? When was the last time the service was done? A lot of these redundant questions really, as an end customer, can be an irritant, as well as a provider of that service can be challenging, because now you're losing a lot of things in translation. I used to hate when I used to call Verizon for my landline, and then they gave me a triple package with Fios and landline and wireless. And guess what? I have to call 3 different people to call Verizon, although it's part of the package. Now, as a consumer, that's very frustrating, but systemically, they couldn't bring everything together where I can get service at one place. Now, decades later, literally, it's a little bit easier, because now you can have the app, and I can possibly maybe make a call there or create a ticket or something. The same thing for the B2B transactions. We feel that manual intervention, while it's going to be needed, there's a lot of repetitive stuff. There's a lot of content that OEMs have that can be pushed left or in a DIY scenario with your customers to say, hey, if you want to do this, here's the manual. Now, you can't give them a 1,000-page manual and expect them to look through it, because you didn't change the problem, but from paper to on a PDF on a file. What we're talking about is if there's a problem with the lower tucker or a RPM on a machine, you take them to that relevant space in that document based on the problem, so that they're not spending 80% of their time looking through it, only for 20% to do something about it. Give that opportunity for them in 20% of the time to be there, and then 80% they can do whatever they need to do. So a lot of cost and a lot of time is spent in translation, and the experience, then the intimacy or the opportunity you want to provide to your customers for that experience with you as an OEM diminishes, or it's very frustrating. Let alone the downtime related costs that your customers might face, because they're only now being reactive. You're not proactively monitoring things. You have possible loss of revenue or loss of incremental revenue opportunity, which we'll talk about as to how customers are doing that. As well as you are in the context of digitization, or you're playing catch up to your competition, because somebody will adopt to these, and if it's not you, it's going to be your competitor. So in some way, shape, or form, you choose the right approach to get to it, and sooner. So with that backdrop, let me talk a little bit about iServ, the solution that we built, that is that gray box, which is built on the right fundamentals of technology with Rockwell and PTC, that caters to the digital needs of today's economies and your organization's vision, but provides not just a toolkit, but a solution that is holistic for servicing. And here's some examples of what customers have said, which is it's an integrated set of workflows that are put together for them. Never before have they been better equipped to focus more on engineering. So this is customers that are using our solution. I wanted to start a little backwards because it's important to see this is the outcome people are getting from deployment of the solution we're talking about. They have created a revenue opportunity for them to be successful with this new line of business, and you'll see an example of that, a dollar-wise example of that. And I've not even mentioned maybe the experience eventually that their end customer gets, because now, yes, there's a little bit of change management, but the opportunity for leapfrogging any other method is just second to none. So what is iServ and what are the features in there? It's got three major components, and it's probably the easiest thing that you can relate to. One is it connects to your equipment that's deployed in the field. Now it's alike for both manufacturing companies as well as for OEMs. So if you're an OEM, you have maybe 100 customers, each with one or more equipment sitting at their facilities. You have the ability for our software to be able to connect to the equipment, read appropriate tags, derive appropriate KPIs that are relevant to you and your customer, and the template visualizes what that looks like to be able to monitor the performance and the usage of the machine that's deployed at your customer, number one. I know there's challenges in there, but we can discuss those. And then as the system learns and becomes intelligent, it provides the ability to be predictive, saying, hey, the line is running fine right now, but I'm seeing a drop in so-and-so tag in your line, and it needs to be at a certain threshold, and I'm just warning that this doesn't mean anything, there's no alarm that's gone, but we've created some threshold capability that then you can get an alert, or you can create a ticket, or send an email, or whatever your mode of connectivity or to your customer and escalation management might be. So that's number one, be able to connect and be able to display data points to both your customer and you as the OEM. The second two features are kind of clubbed together, which is a service app. So there's a mobile app. It has the ability to provide self-guidance. So if I'm a technician or I'm a controls engineer of the customer using your equipment at my facility, I either get alerted saying, that example I give, there's a predictive outcome saying, hey, something's the belts or the RPM or the heat or any of the sensors are not performing to expectation. Either I'm driven to do something by the software, or if I see an error on the line, I can simply take a QR code that we attach to that part or that equipment, and then be able to log at least initially a ticket about what the problem is. So instead of calling somebody in, you have the availability of an equipment sitting there. You can tag it, or you can do it with a browser. But we have an app that enables that. And as soon as you scan that, it tells you, hey, this is the front section of this palletizer, and here's what three things are happening. And this is what you should look at. And those are the self-guided documents or videos or digital capabilities that you have deployed as an OEM to provide to your end customer, that when there's a problem, they can come and take a look at it. It's very powerful because it saves, nobody has called in yet, nobody has escalated yet, but yet you've given them the tools to be successful. So that's one part of the app, which is the self-service capability. The second is the ability for you then to create a ticket in case it doesn't solve the problem instantaneously. You can then log a ticket. Everybody sings from the same sheet of music. There's nothing lost in translation. I told Joe this, and Mary was on the call or whatever. You are actually able to push that DIY component of consumerization, if I may, to your customer. Now, this is where that adoption comes in. The customer's got to be, they're more used to just picking up the phone and calling somebody. But if we train them and help them understand, hey, there's a lot of things you can do on your own. And here's those things, repetitive capabilities that we can bring to bear. So it allows them to do parts management. If they know what parts to order, you can do it directly from there. They can schedule a call with a tech right from the app, and it shows the availability of the techs at the OEM. It allows you to look at how much log information, both hours or things that you've done on the equipment before somebody else comes in, because you're going to get asked that question anyway. You might as well log it somehow. And if you need to do something right now, you can get a remote call with somebody that's going to be able to solve that problem, hopefully, with you. The third is a portal that we provide for the OEM or for you as the service manager of the OEM or the organization providing this app to their customers, which allows you to manage the content, what goes out, what customers are set up, how do you look at integration of parts, what billing you want to integrate, etc. So incredibly powerful for you to be able to bring the data from the machine and eventually act on it. The last two things are the capability to act on something. The first is what tells you, well, what if I can't act if I don't know what the problem is? So either I let the problem be known through the app or the intelligence in the application can tell you that there's a problem and you need to act. Simple workflow slide I think will help identify. So a customer, example, they're running something and they get an alert right on their phone while they're on the floor. This is the OEM's customer where, let's say, a palletizer or some equipment is gone wrong or some alarm has come up. Either the system will just tell you what to do next as a recommendation, just like you go to Amazon and you buy tennis shoes, it's going to tell you, hey, people that bought tennis shoes also bought socks, also bought strings for tennis racket. Are you interested? And it read something about your behavior and be able to tell you that. As the machines and the data becomes more relevant and the system learns more about it, it can tell this problem typically has this issue. But until that, the OEMs can provide a guided workflow to say, hey, if this occurs, which is very common, they ought to do these three things. And I think that's the intelligence we're trying to help build from the OEM community, also help the customer become more relevant in using this so that they become a little bit self-sufficient. Let's say you're unable to solve the problem with that guidance on your own. You're able to create a ticket, and that same ticket will show up in the inbox or in the portal of the service manager of the OEM. So the folks on the right are the OEMs in this case. And they can then upload appropriate content if you need to look at. If that also doesn't solve the problem and you need to get somebody right now to be able to solve a production or SEV1 priority issue, you can actually do a real-time augmented call with them, and it's going to enable you to talk to somebody in real time. And the application will show, hey, here are the service engineers that the OEM has chosen to be available right now. It's like when you go on a website, can I chat with you? It's one of those opportunities, but with a real individual that can provide that capability. So we're taking a lot of industrial learnings from markets like retail, like finance, and other industries and bringing them to the advent of the manufacturing community. I think these features are to be seen how well they mean what to you and deployed appropriately. But the fact that customers are already used to it in their day-to-day lives, this isn't something that's a big hurdle, although you must provide the right methods and capability to engage. I want to talk just a little bit about the opportunity to monetize. So when we look at monetization, there's many ways and means that you can monetize the opportunity. For an OEM, what I mean by monetization is really to be able to take a customer and provide for different types of areas of monetization. So one is tangible costs, and again, I won't cover all of this in the advent of time. You look at, can I sell a package in my next iteration of a $500,000 equipment? Or in $1 million equipment, can I charge $3,000 additive for a digitized service opportunity? Or can I charge $15,000 for a $4 million equipment per year? So, and then you say, well, what am I going to get if that's the customer? And as an OEM, you're saying, well, what am I going to need to package that and put that together? And we'll see that just in a moment. But the features you've seen, that what the customer might get. What that does is it allows for several opportunities, whether it's productivity improvement or it's opportunity for incremental revenue to help monetize the investment that you would have had. Whether it's differentiation, competition, whether it's more closeness to your customer, whether it's the resolution of tickets and time required to do so, whether it's differentiation of your service and engineering teams. A lot of times, that's a big thing we see, that the productivity of engineering goes into the service aspect of things. Here's an example of how customers have actually done this monetization thought to paper to execution, which is on the right you see the number of customers, and on the left of the pyramid you see the dollar per customer that you can possibly charge. And this OEM was a little under, I would say, $100 million in revenue. And they were able to identify $800K of additive service revenue that did not exist before through deployment of this type of a channel, which is take 40 customers and provide the ability for them to sell something worth $5,000 a year. The bottom of the pyramid are not necessarily customers that are less important, but a lot of them that you might charge little money. So that's the only relevance of the pyramid. And then as I build that to your gold or platinum, the top 5 customers in your ecosystem, maybe you can provide something that's worth $15,000 and maybe that's okay for them to pay as, I shouldn't say insurance, which is the ability for you to take maybe top 5 customers and will they, or do you think in your strategy, you can ask them for a $15K packaged service application that comes with a mobile app and a portal and the ability for you to monitor their equipment and provide some intelligence and provide remote collaboration when needed. Provide a system for ticketing that everybody can sing from the same sheet of music. I think that's the key opportunity that others are deploying with their customers in real time and getting value out of it. The numbers, both from the left side of the pyramid or the right, obviously are variable and are dependent on what your opportunity is and what your strategy for deployment is. It's not one size doesn't fit all. So I want to be obviously, cognizant of that. The way we kind of bring this back to, well, what's in it for me? What can I do today after this? I said one of the key points, the takeaways was, can I create a roadmap for my organization to enable myself, whether I'm whether an end user or whether you're an OEM. Now, end user may not have the opportunity for monetization in sense of charging for revenue, but they certainly have the opportunity to do more predictive maintenance, performance monitoring, reduce the time to service, and hence increase uptime, hopefully, of equipment by being proactive. And one of the ways customers deploy our solution is that they look at the initial step to pick one of the 3 components, either performance monitoring or just the app for customer service. Because they're modular, you can use one or the other. And then within 4 to 6 weeks, mind you, this is the key. This is not some 6-month project or year-long initiative. Because we have, going back to that gray box maybe half hour ago, we mentioned we're not going to give you a Lego box and say, here's 2,000 pieces, go make the picture of your dreams. We're going to say, look, you're looking for servicing. There's 3 components that are important for servicing. And you can just pick the capability to provide ticketing and content in one place, or you can also provide monitoring of equipment, et cetera, together. So you can pick what you want, but in this case, for example, a tiered customer service model could enable them to do maybe just unified portal, ticket management, and self-guided app for their customers. The other opportunity is, this is one of our customers that are doing that, which is look at connecting various operative mechanisms, meaning their devices in the field, the assets that they want to monitor, with the consent of your champion customer, with dabbling we call the security concerns and ability for you to be securely deploying this technology with your customer and you as the OEM. But be able to do predictive alarms and maybe suggest certain things that you can tell your customers. That's incredibly important. If this technology doesn't allow you to be able to do that, I think it's just going to be, it's not going to have its full value. So you have to be able to see if that's a use case of predictive maintenance for your customer. $15,000 to $20,000 a year of additive cost we've seen has not been an issue, especially if you can commit to certain levels of SLAs. You already do that today, but that's on how quickly the tech shows up. How quickly can I solve the problem? But if this is to say, I can tell you at least 2 hours before the problem occurs, or I can give you leading indicators rather than lagging indicators, I think you hopefully have earned their trust through the cycle. And then, of course, there's a lot of other steps people do. Well, I want to integrate my entire manufacturing from PLM to CAD to other repositories of data I have, also customer, a CRM, et cetera. And eventually, even transforming, this is that first slide I said, transform means to do something that's radically different at times, but manufacturing and things that have gone on for hundreds of years are going to be, least receptive to that. So you need to take that into cognizance. But at the same time, companies have introduced the outcome that they do as a service, or at the least the machine as a service, which is I don't sell the equipment one time and be done. Can I enable the ability for my customer to be tied to me over the course of several years? Not just through service, but with in the machining as a service business. And we can chat more about that. But the key is that you can take back today and identify, look, does this block or one of these blocks sit well with me? Or is that an area that I want to go into as an organization? How quickly can I deploy things? And what is it that we can help build? When we look at the kind of the let's get started scenario, one of the things we tell our customers is don't boil the ocean. There's a lot to look at, but be mindful of the readiness. So can you take one feature of maybe just the application of the app, right? As an example in that first block, which is if we do a pilot with, say, 5 machines and a handful of customers, take one feature of knowledge base and document management and ticketing. That's kind of all 3 together. No performance monitoring yet. Even if you start there, are you more getting a step ahead of where you need to be, as an example? Then to look at in the walk stage, if you will, you integrate additive customers, maybe put the other feature that you didn't pick earlier into the mix. And then, of course, then you do different types of pricing, you do different types of scenarios of customer billing, et cetera. But very important that you scale this. Start with something that becomes a part of a larger play. And it'd be, if you want to learn more kind of about this strategy, we've given a quick QR code here. You can kind of try and see how you feel and what the experience for you is. This will let you download let you register, and then you'll get a link for an app as well as the access to the portal. So you can kind of try it for yourself and see how that feels like. But it's important if you're in that space of wanting to do service for your customers or even internally in your plant, incredible amount of opportunity for digitizing. And we're here to help. If you're looking for ticketing to be done by us or by somebody else, if you've got customer data that's sitting somewhere that we need to integrate, we have several subsystems that we integrate with in the sense that either they're API-based, like a programming interface available, or we do a nightly or hourly exchange of data through some sort of EDI. So things like, supplier information for parts or what have you, e-commerce data about your product, your customer listing or equipment master somewhere, we can all integrate to that through either flat files or through APIs. And our ability to do so exists within the application. So that's a good point, I think, that if you needed to extend that capability, otherwise you use this as the system, then it's just, hey, content is key. And again, I think there's one point I want to point out, what Mark was saying, it's that if I just digitized a manual that's a 300-page document and I put a PDF out there for 300 pages, I think we're not serving the right thing. We've got to be able to figure some intelligence about this equipment and this location and these 7 pages on the document. So that's exercise we'll probe you to help do, saying let's not just do documents sitting on a flat drive somewhere that nobody uses, because nobody's going to use it here either, unless I create that intelligence. So that's what our value is, to be able to, 1, integrate with the subsystems, and 2, be able to be relevant to the problem at hand and not just, hey, go look it up in this manual, right? Because instead of the cabinet, they'll go to the app. That's the only difference now. But you want it to be relevant. I want to be able to get to that fairly quickly. Yeah, that's good. That's important. Sure. Yeah, we have very specific kind of KPIs that customers look for, whether it's OE or related to availability, quality, performance, the failure and rates related to that, if they capture that. And variant of this, so, for example, there's some customers that want to do some stats processing, which is a little higher end of analysis, but because of the platform, it's available to do it. We provide a template to be able to get started, because we know those key indicators. Now, you must collect those on the performance side, on the machine, and have the ability to get it out. But our connectivity drivers are very scalable and connected pretty much. So the connectivity to controls or any PLC or data to come from any engineered system, it's agnostic to that. That's the right point, yeah. So it's built on the software from Rockwell, but the connectivity is agnostic and it's open. So the OPC is just one level from an aggregation perspective, but the communication back to you or your server as an OEM is yet another. So that's why I was saying maybe a lot of times Ethernet or a parallel network that's just provided for you, that's white labeled, so it's not intruding, or it's non-hackable because although it's a parallel network to the plant. So that's good for the customer because then you're not getting any other stuff from the plant, just this one machine or your machine as an OEM. And then that itself is also only to you because it's a tunneled communication. So that's the transport layer, if I may say so. Whereas the OPC is more of the aggregator of all PLC data coming together. So, and like Mark said, it's agnostic. That method of communication is also, we can use many options. But we've been, whether it's with customer providing a virtual network or we're using GPRS capability, because you're not sending massive data set. You're sending enough to be showcasing that to the customer. Well, we're right on the hour, and I appreciate your patience in this morning, and hopefully this was beneficial for you to see how you can maybe take some transformation initiatives back to your organization and be relevant for the next journey.